Hi, Geoffrey. Hi, Kentoni. Welcome. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, we have 5 minutes. Let's give our colleagues some time to join, then we'll be starting.
Hello. Hello. Can you all hear me? Hello.
Oh, hi, Christian.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Nice to host you.
Thank you.
We
Thank
are
you so much.
delighted to have you today.
Thank you, Samuel. Where are you?
Nairobi, Kenya.
Ah, nice, nice.
Great. So we're just giving it a few, let's say 5 minutes for more people to join, then we'll be starting.
Sure, that's okay.
Great.
So what's usually the attendance for the event? Like on average?
On average, 30. Let's say between 25 to 50, sometimes even close to 60. So it depends. It depends.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Though today people are late. I'm wondering why.
It's their weekend. Maybe they're still hungover from last night.
Probably.
Yeah. How do I pronounce Adeline? Is it Adeline or Adeline?
It's Adeline.
Okay. Nice to meet you all. It's been a while since I've been to Kenya. I think it's been pre-COVID. Before COVID, I've not.
Wow, quite a
Yes,
long time.
Yeah. What?
I'm saying that's quite a long time. Yeah, COVID changed things. So, you know.
Yeah. But it's one of my favorite places. I tell my friends that Nairobi is my second home.
Great, great.
I organized a conference there. I can't remember the name of the school in 2019 or 2020 or 2019. Yeah, I had a conference in a school in Nairobi.
Which conference?
Concatenate.
Oh, okay. I
Yes.
heard about it, though I didn't attend, but I heard about it.
Yeah.
Hi, Kentoni.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Oh, we're good. I'm good. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Great.
My
Let's just
purpose
give it.
is to learn.
Great, great.
Right.
Let's just give it some more 3 minutes. I'm wondering where are guys today?
They are in Vasha. They have gone to the rally.
Oh,
in
people have
Naivasha.
gone for safari rally.
Yeah.
We are having safari rally here, so I guess
What's the event about? The rally?
it's safari rally. Is it Africa? Something I'm not so sure. I don't follow it as much, but I just know that it's safari rally around.
Okay.
It's actually the World Rally Championships.
It's like a sport or just like a party?
It's motorsports.
I got it. So is there a way to interact with people on the call? Is it through chat or would they like unmute to ask questions?
Depending on the time, we sometimes we can allow them to unmute and ask questions, but if we are squeezed with time, we recommend the chat. On the
Okay.
chat, then.
All right, that sounds good.
It's 5 minutes in. I guess we can start. The rest will join us as we continue. Hi, Jack. Welcome.
So I can start, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just a minute. Oh, hi, guys. Welcome to AWS User Group, Kenya. Today, we are being hosted by Christine. He'll be taking us through building a full stack website using AWS Amplify. AWS Amplify is an amazing service from AWS, basically giving you the leverage of building your mobile applications quite so easily. So, and your web applications. So it will be an interesting talk. So in case you have any questions, just put them on the chat. Then Christian will have time to answer all your questions. Then I'll also be posting the attendance list on the chat. So kindly just fill in your details, your attendance details. Thank you so much. Christine, it's your time. You can go on. Welcome.
Thank you all, and thank you for that introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Christian, and I'm a senior developer advocate at AWS and always representing AWS Amplify. So today I'm going to spend some time in the next hour or so, just going to spend some time to show you how amazing this product is. It has not been around as like things like EC2, but it's one of the fantastic things I've used personally. Like, this is beyond just being an AWS employee. I love AWS Amplify because it just makes my life as a developer way much easier. And considering the fact that I'm a front-end developer, I have more experience building user experiences. I don't have that much experience building back-end products, but at the same time, I wish I have tools, I have solutions that can help me like have a back-end for the app I've built, for the front-end I've built, for the mobile app I've built. In that case, that is where Amplify comes in. It allows you to focus on your core skills as a front-end or mobile developer, while it takes care of the back-end, things like authentication, things like storage, and all of that stuff for you. Yeah. So, hey, good afternoon, Samuel. Good afternoon, Mohammed. Thank you for shouting out in the chat. Yeah, so before we get started, before I share my screen, please, if you have questions, ask them in the chat. I'll be looking at the chat frequently to see and make sure that I don't lose anyone. And yeah, let's just have some fun. Let me share my screen quickly and let's get started. All right, can you see my screen? Cool. So
Sure, we can say it.
I'm hearing someone.
Yeah. Let me just mute.
Cool. Okay. So yeah. If you've while I'm setting up, please, I'm just going to give you all some time. If you've heard about AWS Amplify, you just use the emoji thumbs up emoji in the chat. But if you've heard about Amplify and have used it, send 2 thumbs up emoji. I just want to understand the audience and get experience level and see the things I should get more deeper into. So let's start by going to the AWS console. So I'm just going to close off some of these tabs. And then let's just go to console.aws.amazon.com. Now, while I'm at the console, I just need to search for AWS Amplify. Once you find it, open it. And then we need to create a new app. And when you click on the drop down, you should see the options to either host a web app. So Amplify allows you to host an app you've built, like a React app you just want to deploy it from GitHub and set up continuous integration and all of that stuff. Or you can just build a backend from scratch using Amplify. For now, we need to build a backend from scratch because we haven't even set up a front end to deploy. So let's pick build an app. Now I can give the app a name. In this case, let's just call it a to-do app, and then click confirm deployment. Now, I just have to warn you all that this talk is going to be a lot of us just chilling and allowing Amplify to do all the heavy lifting for us. And that basically means that we're going to like have some like time where we're just like talking about random stuff while we wait for things like deployments to happen, because we're just giving Amplify instructions on what we need, and then it's going to take some time to spin up those things. So while we are waiting for the deployment to finish, just like I said, if you've heard of Amplify, 1 thumbs up in the chat. If you've used Amplify, 2 thumbs up. So I can see Samuel have used Amplify, and that's good to hear. So we just need to give this some time and see. Once it's done deploying, then we'll start seeing all the cool stuff about it. And while it's deploying though, one thing that I would like you to know is that once this stage is done, we will be done with the AWS console. What we need to do now is to head to the Amplify studio. So Amplify has its own studio that is different from AWS console. So once we get to that studio, that's where we'll do all of the cool stuff like creating our data model, creating, enabling authentication, authorization, and all of that cool stuff. I can see we have 21 people. More people have joined. All right, so as you can see, the deployment is done, and we just have just one call to action, which is this launch studio button. Right? Is my screen big enough, or should I zoom things in? Just let me know if it's fine enough.
I think it's pretty clear,
Okay.
man.
Yeah, let me also zoom in a little bit just in case. So yeah, so we'll have this launch studio button, and that was what we need to click. And once you click on this button, it's going to open a new tab. Now in that tab, it's an entirely different website from AWS console. And this website is actually a website. It's no longer like AWS. This is a website that like basically just helps you manage the site you're going to build with the console. So I think we got an error. Let me just refresh and see if there's a problem. Yeah, just refresh and fix that. Now, the console has a few things. The studio rather has a few things. So when I say the console, I'm referring to AWS website, your dashboard in AWS. And when I say studio, I'm referring to Amplify Studio. So the studio has a few features. The first one is content, which allows you to manage the content you've created after you created a data model. We haven't done anything with data models yet, so we'll still get to that. You can also manage all the users that are signed into your website, and you can browse through all the files you've uploaded to your site. The next section is the design section, where you can, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag because this is the best thing you're going to see today. So I'm just keeping that little suspense while we see other features. Now the data section allows you to model your data. So the data you model here is what you can populate from the content sections. Then we have authentication where we enable authentication and authorization. And then we have storage and functions and all of this cool stuff. So the first thing we should do is to actually model our data. So if we click on data and click on add model, we want to create a to-do table, and it's going to have an ID, of course. We also need to have a task. So this is the thing you need to complete in your to-do items. Now, once we set up our ID, you can create multiple models and you can add relationships to them, but we don't need to do this today. We just need to create a simple table to store a to-do item. So once we have the fields created, we've given the table a name, We can then click on save and deploy to allow Amplify some time to start deploying this model. So click the deploy button and then just give it a few, like about 2 to 3 minutes for it to complete. Now, while this is happening, if you have any questions, if I'm too fast, if you are confused, please just say something in the chat before I move on. And by the way, for everyone in the call, thank you for choosing to join me instead of going for the rally. So if you're confused, please let me know in the chat and then I can answer your question before I move on. All right, so no questions. So let's move on. The UI library section basically is the next we need to take a look at, and it allows you now prepare yourself for something really cool. This place in Figma. Let me refresh. It allows you to create a design in Figma and then take the link of that design, paste it in Amplify Studio. And what Amplify would do is go through all the components in that Figma project and pull those components as React component into Amplify. And then you just need to run one command in your terminal to pull all the components from Amplify into your React project. So you can see from this diagram that the components go from Figma to Amplify and then from Amplify to React. So basically you have, it's as simple as saying you have a Figma to React converter, which is just it takes all the components in Figma and convert them to React for you. So you don't have to write those components from scratch. And speaking of components, if you need to get started, first of all, you need to click on the Get Started button and then make a copy of this Figma template. So let's open that in a new tab. Now, if you duplicate it, you should see some instructions. The first one is the README page, which tells you how to use this Figma project. And the primitives page is if you use Bootstrap, it's like the Bootstrap component. It's like you have your buttons and your badges and your text and all of this, your text box and all of that cool stuff. But then it's advisable, as you can see, there's a message here that says you should stop. It's advisable that you don't edit the components here because Amplify is aware. Amplify needs to be able to predict the state of these primitives so that nothing breaks in your app. But then if you can't edit these components or these primitives, how then do you customize them? There are two ways to do this. Either you use the plugin called Amplify Theme Editor, which allows you to just provide different color schemes or text sizes or spaces and all of that stuff for your design. But in this case, I'm just going to stick with this one and I'm fine with how it looks. The second way to then customize it is to go to the component section and start reusing the components. So you can reusing the primitives. So you can see that this is a very good example. There's a card component, which is a button primitive, and button can be found in the primitive section. So it just this is the parent component, and this is the child, or this is the instance of the component. So if you don't need to understand how this works. You just know that the way you can create components in React and use that component, it's the same rule applies in Figma. You create a component in Figma, and then you can use the component in other pages in your Figma project. So since we need to do it to build a to-do app, I already went ahead to duplicate this before we started the call, to duplicate this and then removed all the components I don't need and just created a navigation bar and then something for us to create the to-do, which is the to-do component, and then the to-do item. And this is just the 3 components we need for this project. Now that's Now that said, we just need to copy the URL of this Figma project.
Offline Fatuni call.
Is someone asking a question?
No.
All right, good. So we just need to copy the URL to this Figma project and then head to our studio. Then in this text box, remember how we got here was just on the sidebar, click on UI library. Then on this page, click on get started and then paste the URL here and then click continue. Now, in just like the next 5 seconds, it's going to go to Figma. If this is the first time you're doing this, it's going to ask you to authorize Amplify. So Figma will first of all ask you, hey, Amplify is trying to have access to your Figma components. Do you want to allow it to do that? So I've already done this, so it doesn't ask me these questions subsequently. But for you to ask it, so don't panic when you see that question. And the next thing you need to do is to look at all the design systems that were imported for you, so you can see your colors, your text, your spaces, and all of that stuff. And if you like them, you can accept all changes. Then the next stage is to look at all the components that were imported. So remember our nice navbar. I can accept the navbar. I can also accept the create to do component. And then lastly, the to do component. Also, you can just click accept all if you have like a bunch of components, but I did this so that you can see all the components we're importing. And then lastly, we can click on save component for it to just complete the import. You look at the sidebar. Now, if like basically if you go, let's say you go to your home page and come back to UI library, we no longer see just the option to get started. We see the option to sync with Figma. So that means that Figma will sync with Figma already, but if you think that you've made changes to the Figma project, you can come back here and keep syncing them with the new changes. And then on the side, we see our list of components as well as our list, as well as the UI themes that were imported. So we get our create to do, our navbar, and our to do item. Now, everything looks cool. The next step is to check if our data has been successfully deployed. So if you come back here, you can see that there's a deployed message here saying that the to-do model has been deployed, which means if you go back to the content, you should be able to start adding items to that to-do table. Let's just give it a few seconds to fetch the items, even though there's nothing to fetch. Now, since there is no data and we need to build an app and we need to test if the app works with data, we can forget about dealing with real data and just generate fake data for testing. And to do that, we just need to click on this auto-generate seed data. And then we need to maybe generate 10 to-dos. And we can add constraints. Constraint just means what are the rules for the data that is going to be added to the field. So let's say we need to select sentence length and we just need maybe 3 words in the sentence. So let's just say just 2 words. Let me mute. Yeah. So just 2 words. And then we can click generate data. So you can see it takes a few seconds as you start populating the table with this random fake data. We don't care about what they mean, we just want to use them to test our app. Now, once this is done, the next step, so the first step was to deploy the data model, which we did here. The second step was while we were waiting for the data model to deploy, we went and imported our design from Figma, which we've done. The third step was to populate the data model with some fake content that we can use to test the app when we start when we start building the app within React. Now, the next step is the next mind-blowing thing I'm going to show you. Remember, I told you something very exciting, which is being able to import your components from Figma to Amplify, and then Amplify converts them to React components. And by the way, what you're seeing here are rendered React components. These are not Figma components anymore. And that's why if I go to create to do, I can click in and start typing stuff inside. Now, the next exciting thing is that for each of these items, for each of these components that were imported from Figma, I can bind data from my data model to them. Here's what I mean. If I click on to do item and click on the configure button and click on cook dinner for family, which is the text that holds the to do item. Now on the side, you can see component properties and child properties. What I need to do is to say, hey, this component, I want you to be aware of the fact that I have hello, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I'm hearing you, Kristen. I can hear you.
But he's breaking.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, like there was power outage and then I got disconnected. Yeah, so
Sorry.
but that's okay. So cool. So I was saying, we have this sidebar with two options, which are the component properties and child properties. In the component property, we just need to tell the component about the to-do model. In that case, you just need to go to add prop and create something called to-do item. See, yeah, something called to-do item. And then in the to-do, and then in the type is not going to be string, it's going to be a to-do model, right? So this is the model, the data we created, the model in data section called to-do, we're binding it to the component. Now, once you've done this, for each of the child of that component, they can have access to the fields in the model. So if I click on set prop in the child property and choose something like the label of the text, you can see that we can set it to to-do item.task. So to-do item matches it to the name here, and then the task is the name of the field in the table. I don't know if that makes sense. If you are confused, please let me know in the chat, and then I can explain this step, because this is a very important step. So just let me know in the chat, and I can say when I said one more. Okay? All right. So yeah, go ahead. All right. So okay, one more time. All right. So let me just from step one. So step one, we modeled our data, right? We created a table called to do. And then while it was deploying, because it was going to take some time to deploy, we went and imported our components from Figma, our like our Figma components to Amplify, which Amplify then converted to React components. And then if you to confirm that these are React components and not just images, if you click on the create to do component, you can see that it's an actual text field that you can type words into, right? So that was the second step. Then the third step was when the data was done deployed, the data model was done being deployed, we went to content and generated some fake data, which is taking some time to fetch. And this just generated like 10 items for the to-do table. Then we went back to the UI section because we wanted to bind the table, the data in the content I just showed. You want to bind that data to the to-do items. So for the to-do item, I just clicked on it and then clicked on configure. And then from this part, from this section, the first thing I did was to bind a component property. So as you can see, we're looking at the to-do item component. And then what I needed to do was to bind a component property, which is kind of like a parent property that's going to be passed down to the children. And the component, the property I passed to it was to do item, and then the data I passed to it was to do. Now, just to give you a better analogy, if I open Visual Studio Code, let's see. Yeah, if open Visual Studio Code and let's do something here. If I had something like this, to do item, which is this component, right? What I'm basically doing here is doing something like this. To do item is equal to do. So I don't know if this helps make it clearer. So inside to do item, then let's say I have a component called to do item. It's going to receive to do item, right? Which matches this. And then here we'll start binding to do item.task and stuff like that. So if you understand what's going on here, I expect that this would make sense to you because it's React. If this makes sense, this is exactly what I'm doing here. So the parent, the component receives to do item, which is of type to do. And then for each of the child items, like inside the component, we are then binding them to individual things. So for example, I'm saying that the value of this should be the to do item.task. So the label of the text should be to do item.task. I hope that helps. And then the next thing you can also do, you don't have to bind just text. You can also bind. So for example, I want to delete this to do item when this trash can is clicked on. So if I click on the trash can, I can see the option to click on set prop and search for on click. And when it's clicked, what do you want to do? I want to delete something. So click delete. Then it's going to ask you what model do you want to delete something from. In this case, it's to do. And then I want to delete based on the to do ID. All right. So what's going to happen is if I click on this, Amplify is going to search for in the to do table what has the to do ID that's mapped to this item, and then it would remove it from the table. Yeah, so that's how you bind to components. And then the next thing to do is to create a collection from this component, because it doesn't make sense to render one to do item. We want to render a list of all the things we do, right? So if you click on the create collection button, and let's give it a name. So I'll just call this to do's, then click create. Then you can see we have a list of to do items that we can delete. I also want to be able to add pagination to it. So if you click on include pagination, I want each page to just have 6 items. So I can move through the pages, and you can also include search, but it's not necessary because it's just a simple to do item. But one thing I want to do though is to sort it so that the newest things are on top. So if I click on add sort, the date was created at, if you click on sort by created at, and then click on it and change it to descending. So that way, the newest items are on top and the oldest items are below. I hope all of that makes sense. If you're confused, remember to ask questions and I'll pause and help you clarify things. And the next thing to do is to actually start. I think we need to do one more thing. Let's bind. Let's go back to the UI library and then click on create to do. And by the way, you can see we have to-dos item now. So this to-dos item does not exist in Figma. It exists only in Amplify because we created a collection of to-do items. And if you click on create to do and click on configure, then we need to bind an event to the plus button. So we need to be able to create a new item when this event is clicked. So if you click on the button and click set prop, look for on click, we want to be able to create a new data when this button is clicked. So I think I'm selecting the wrong thing. That should be this one. Yeah. So click set prop, search for on click, then click create from the actions. The model we want to create a new item in is the to do model. And then we want to take data from the text field. So you can see hello.
Hey, Christian.
Yeah. Sorry, I got disconnected again. Can you give me permissions to share?
Sure. You already have permissions to share, so.
I'm seeing an host disabled participant sharing, screen sharing.
Okay, just for a second.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. Just a second, please.
Okay. So far for everyone in the chat, just let me know if like what if you're stuck or something is confusing, and secondly, if you think or what you find particularly interesting with Amplify. At least for me personally, it's the fact that I'm able to pull components from Figma and bind data to them, and not just data, also bind events to them. And you see how when we pull those components into a React project, it's going to actually just have all of those things set up and ready for you to go. So you're going to just write a lot more minimal code to get things to work.
So guys, let's just give it a minute or two. The person who created the event is not able to, he was not attending the event. So I've just reached out to the person to give us the host permissions back. So I'm sorry, guys, just a minute or two. Maybe we can get to know each other a little. Maybe we can start by any person outside of Kenya, apart from our host. Do we have any? Oh, it seems
Everyone in Nairobi. Is everyone in Nairobi?
Yeah, I guess everyone is in Nairobi.
Oh, nice. You can say hi in the chat and let us know like your background or what you do or where you work and what you like. building. You can say hi. For example, my name is Chris. I'm a front-end developer and I'm a developer advocate at AWS Amplify. So something like that, either in the chat or you can unmute yourself and just say hi. Hi, Jack. Hi, Alfred. So where do you what do you both do? Are you front-end or mobile or back-end developers? Oh, nice.
Oh, I'm saying Jack is a full stack.
Yeah. And Margaret is full stack as well. Hi, Elisha. Oh, nice. Richard, nice to meet you. Richard I don't know much about IT engineering, but is like do you use AWS in your day-to-day job? Yeah, I wish we could too as well, Jack. I don't know why nobody wants to unmute and say hi to me. Nobody wants to be my friend in the room. I don't know why. Hi, Maureen. Who's going to be the first person to unmute and say hi to me?
Hi.
Hi, Eric.
Yes, I'm Eric, software front-end developer and QA. That's
Nice.
in Nairobi.
Are you freelancing or working for a company?
Yeah, I'm working for a government organization.
Nice. That's so cool.
Sorry, guys, for interrupting you. We are back. We are back. You can now share your screen. Yeah, we are back.
Okay, perfect.
Right. Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. So, and Eric will continue our chat. So let's finish the demo because we are running a long time. But yeah. So like I said, it's not just text or data that you can bind to the UI. You can also bind events. So in this case, I'm trying to bind an on-click event to this add button. And what I want to do is when you click on this event, I want to create something. If I selected the create option, and what I want to create is a to-do, and I want to get the input from this text box. So that's why I'm going to go back here and click on this and choose text field as the value where the task comes from. I hope that makes sense. Let me put the chat on my screen and be sure that I'm not missing any questions. Let's see. Chat. All right. And by the way, nice to meet you, Cosmos. My name is Christian. All right, so we have all our binding working out now. So just as a recap, we did our data modeling, we imported our UI library, we added some content to the data that we created, and we bound the data to the components that we imported for Figma. Now we need to complete this as a 360, make a full circle by creating a React project and then importing everything we have here, both the data model and the data and the UI library and the bound data into a React project. Things are about to get very cool. So let's head to our terminal. Basically, all you need to do is to do npx create React app, or call it to do app. I already did this, as you can see, because like I have a very weird, shitty internet. So I don't want to like would just watch us waiting for NPM to install a React project. So I just did that. And then I also saved you the time watching me install these two libraries. The first one, let me make this bigger, sorry, because I know it's going to be weird to see. Yeah, so the first library, just clear. The first library is this library, this UI library. It's called AWS Amplify /UI React. And if you go to ui.docs.amplify.aws, you will see that there's a component library here where you have some primitive components like text and buttons. So is it button? Some buttons and all of that cool stuff. And this is the reason why the primitives page in the Figma project asks you not to edit this page, because this page is replicated with this UI library. So if you edit this page, you might not notice any difference when you actually pull things, because it's going to still rely on this component. So the only way you can talk to this on this UI library, so the only way you can talk to this UI library is using the theme editor, which once you use the theme editor, you can import it in your project, and then the library will be aware of that the themes has changed, and it will change your colors or whatever you want it to be. So that's the library I'm installing, the first library I'm installing. And then the second library is what's going to allow us to make a request to AWS Amplify. So kind of like it's an understatement, but kind of say like Axios or the fetch library in the browser API. But it's more complicated than that, but like just for lack of a better explanation, just see AWS Amplify library as what's going to help you make the requests in your app. I also have these two libraries installed, and you can confirm that by opening my package.json file. Let's close this one. By opening my package.json file, you can see that I have the UI React library installed and the AWS Amplify library installed. Now, to pull those components from Amplify, we need to make sure we have the Amplify CLI installed. So because we're going to end up running something like Amplify pull, and Amplify does not exist in your path unless you install it. So you have to run this command to install that library. And then once you have this installed, you can then run Amplify configure to just log into your AWS account. This is a lot of information. So the best thing I can do for you is to show you a documentation on how to, or just send it in the chat on how to set up all of this. So let's go to UI, rather docs.amplify.aws. If you choose React and go to prerequisites, you would see the same instruction. There's also a video that helps you do this. You can see install the UI, like the command line library, run Amplify configure and log in, and all of this cool stuff. So let me just send this in the chat so that so I've just sent it in the chat. So if you want to, like, if you don't already have Amplify installed and you want to install it, and just everything I've just shown you, you can follow the process in the getting started page. This is the only prerequisite you need to get started. Once you have all of that, then the next step is just to pull the component. And to pull the component, we need to go back to this page and click on local setup instruction on the top right corner of the page. Then copy the pull command that you see on in the pop-up, head back to the terminal and just run that command. Paste and hit enter. It would redirect you back to the browser, and back to AWS, back to your studio dashboard rather. And the studio is going to be like, hey, your CLI, or a CLI rather in this case, a CLI it's not aware of, is trying to have access to your Amplify Studio project. Are you comfortable with this? So just need to click yes once the question pops up. So click yes, and then once it's done, authenticate and close the tab, head back to the terminal, and you would start seeing the pull process happening. Now, Amplify is going to ask you a few questions so he knows how to pull the things into your project. And of course, I'm using Visual Studio Code, so you can choose whatever editor you're using. I'm writing JavaScript and I'm writing React. And my source directory, like my entire source code, is inside the source SRC folder. The build is inside the build folder. So I'm just hitting enter because it knows the default options for React. And then build command is npm run build, and the start command is npm run start. So we'll just give it like a few seconds to finish pulling the components and the models. You can see it says it's generating the components, and then it's done syncing them. Then it asks you, do you plan on modifying this backend? Yes, we want to modify it. So if you say yes, it will pull the backend information for you as well. Just a few seconds while it fetches the backend information. And then once it's done, if you head back to Visual Studio Code, you'll start seeing something really cool. If you open the SRC folder, you would see the UI components folder. Now remember that if you've ever created a React project, none of these folders exist inside the source folder, the models and the UI components folder. The models folder contains information about our model, which is things like our to-do model. But then the UI components folder contains all the components we just created, as well as the themes. Of course, we're using the default theme, but if we change the themes, all the themes would have been imported as a JSON file. So if you take a look at something like our to-do item, you can see it renders a text, and the text is bound to to-do item.task. Remember the analogy I gave you earlier. And then we have to-dos, which is a collection. You can see it's a collection component that it's imported from the UI like React library folder, library rather. And then it kind of just loops through all the to-do items and just renders a to-do item component, which is this to-do item we just saw earlier. So now that we know all of this stuff, what we just need to do is actually use this component. So let's first of all configure Amplify. So Amplify can be able to make requests to, rather let's configure our React app so that it can be able to make requests to our Amplify API. If we open the index.js file, we need to import Amplify from AWS Amplify. Remember, I told you that this is the library that is responsible for making all the requests. So that's why we need to do that first. And also Amplify creates this configuration file in the root of your source folder called AWS export. It contains your credentials. So you can see, I think it should also ignore it in .gitignore so that this doesn't get leaked. But it contains all your, let me see if it's actually done for us. Yeah, you can see that it's been ignored in AWS in .gitignore file. So what Amplify does is that once you finish pulling, it edits your gitignore file to include this file there. So this file contains things like your API key that will allow you to make requests to your Amplify API. Now we need to use this configuration, this object to configure Amplify. So to do that, we just need to import the configuration first, AWS export from AWS-export. All right. And finally, we can call amplify.config and pass it, .configure rather, configure, and pass it the configuration object. Okay. So let me be sure there's no question in the chat. If you're confused, if I've lost you so far, let me know, and then I will like explain everything as usual. But this is all you need to be able to start like using your components, and the components will have access to your API as well. So if you save this, save, close it, and then open up app.js file. We need to remove everything here and just create a new component. And in the component, we can just render a div. And then in the div, we need to render our navbar. So let's first of all import the navbar. Remember, we saw that everything is inside the UI components folder. So we need to import it from there. They are all in the UI components folder, and then they are all assembled in the index.js file in the UI components folder and re-exported there. So for example, I can just import navbar from UI components. I just need to do this from UI dash components. Then we can import navbar, should be capital B. Then here we can just render navbar. For some reason, my autocomplete is acting up, so maybe I need to restart the VS Code. And then set the width to 100%. It just takes up the full screen. Okay. So let's save this. Let me just restart Visual Studio Code. Quit. And let me reopen it. Hopefully this time, yeah, it's working fine now. Jack, did you have a question? I just muted you because you are mute. I just close this. So if I run npm start, let's see what we have and see. Let's just see if everything is working so far. Yes, so you can see the navbar is actually appearing and it looks very ugly, but the point is that we have a component that's being rendered and we haven't written any code at all to create this component, which is very amazing. And for this to work properly, remember I told you that we need to use the UI, the UI library we installed. We installed two libraries, the AWS Amplify library, which does the API request, and then the UI library. We haven't imported the UI library, so that's why it doesn't look nice yet. So just to do that, we need to go back to Visual Studio Code, and in our index.js, we just need to import it somewhere here. Let's just do import at AWS Amplify /UI React /styles. 1 second. I don't know why my VS Code is freezing, but yeah, /styles.css. Okay, so if we save this, you can see we are almost there. The font doesn't look exactly like what we have in the design, which is this. So why this is the case is because we also need to import the font I'm using. I'm using the font called Enter. Let me just copy it from Google Fonts, head back to Visual Studio Code, go to my index.css, and just paste it somewhere at the top. So this is just importing the font directly from Google Fonts. Okay, you can see it's Google Fonts URL. If we head back to the browser, you can see that the to-do now looks, it's no longer using a serif font, it's using a sans serif font, which is Inter in this case. Cool. So we have our navbar working now. So the next thing is to actually render our create to-do component and our to-do and our to-do component. We are running short on time, so let me see how fast I can be for this one. So let's see, view. I'm just going to import view as well because it comes from the UI, the component we just imported. The level we just imported. So, and this is going to, in this place, we're going to render our create to do component, create to do, and
Well,
also
if kwa sababu na moza 5 nimebaki na 38.
also the to-dos component. I need to add some styles to this. I think I just created this twice. I need to add some styles to this. I need, let's see what it looks like first. You can see we have some, it's working. Like we have our collection of to-do items, and we have a text box for creating new components. But I need to center it so it looks a lot nicer. So to do that, I'm just going to reduce the width to start with. Let's make the width 300 pixels, and margin left auto, margin right auto, and just give its margin top as well. So it creates some space, 30 pixels. I also need to add margin top to the to-do item. So it gives some breathing room for between like the to-do items and the create to do. So there you go. You have like a nicer looking to do app, and this actually works. That's the crazy thing. Like we don't need to do any other thing. We don't need to write any other code. Like this to do is going to work just out of the box. And to prove this to you, if we start deleting items, they actually work, and the pagination works as well. If I go to the top as well and remove a few more things, if I refresh the page, you will not see those things. You can see they are gone, and actually delete everything we have here. And that's why if we refresh the page, we're not going to see anything. And if we go back to the content page, you will see that we're not going to have to items in there anymore because we just deleted everything. So this is like saying we'll have like a full stack application without literally writing anymore. We've just written like UI code to make it look nicer, but that's all. Like there's no items here. The things we generated are all gone. If I come back here and add cook, dinner, and click the plus button, it starts adding the items. Wash my clothes. If I refresh the page, it persists. If I head back to this, I can see that it's in real time, it's updating because it's GraphQL, it's a subscription. So even if this was a chart, you can take advantage of the real-time behavior and like it's just start popping up. So you don't need to do anything. We don't have to refresh this page for these items to start showing up. To prove this to you, let's just drag this out, add one more item, and just watch the database update in real time. If I add, let's say, go to school, you should see go to school pop up on the left. Yeah, so you can see it happens in real time. I don't need to refresh this page for any changes to occur. Now I know we've run out of time, but Samuel, can I show them authentication and authorization before we go?
Sure. I guess that wouldn't take much time. So
yeah, it shouldn't. It's like we're almost done.
Great.
Yeah. So let's see. To add authentication, we just need to click the authentication section on the left and click deploy. Before we deploy, I want to make the password strength weaker because it's just a test app. So I need to remove all of these restrictions and then click deploy. And then confirm deployment once you're done with the settings. So this is going to take as much time it took to deploy the the data. So if anyone has any question while we are doing this, let me know in the chat so we can answer a few questions before while we wait for the deployment to complete. I can also do some recap. If you're lost, please don't shy out of asking questions. Just let me know. I can take this time while waiting for deployment to be done to answer your questions. And the question doesn't have to be, it can be Amplify in general. It doesn't have to be like what I've told you so far right now, like just general questions about Amplify and just whatever your curiosity feels like. So there are a few things you can do. The app actually can be deployed to any app, to any place. You can use, if you don't want to use, if you don't want to host it on AWS, just mind you that this is just an API. Amplify is just an API that you can use anywhere. So it has both GraphQL and REST API options, as you can see on the left here. So let's say you deployed it to something like Netlify. All you just need to do is, like, as long as, like, there's nothing to do actually, just deploy it anywhere you want to deploy it, Vessel or Next, and it still works because it's just an API endpoint that we're calling. Does that make sense, Collins? And just for context, Collins was asking, hey everyone, Collins was asking, can the app only be deployed to AWS or can he switch to any other services? So he can choose to switch to deploy the front end to anywhere. Of course, you cannot deploy Amplify API to maybe another provider because it's an AWS service, but the front end itself can be deployed anywhere. Yeah, so we're using DynamoDB. DynamoDB is for storage, is for the database, but then why it's real time is because of a layer in AWS that sits between Amplify and DynamoDB, which is AppSync. So like it's literally in the name, which basically allows things to, like, data to sync in real time while it's been updated. So kind of like instead of REST being the cool thing, or like making API requests being the cool thing, webhooks are the cool thing. Yes, AWS and DynamoDB are normal. So more questions, please. They can be weird, they can be random. Cool. So you can see the authentication is done, and it literally says here that it's been deployed. So what we just need to do is pull the changes that have been made. So every time you go back to the studio and make a change, you need to run the pull command again to update the changes locally. Now, before we do that, I want to save time and do one more thing that needs deployment before we start using the authentication, and that is authorization. So to set up authentication just means who can log in and who can't. Authorization is when you're logged in, what rights do you have? So we need to set that up for the to-do table. So when you click on the table, we need to be able to allow only the people that have created to-do items to be able to edit them or delete them or update them. Okay, so that's why we need to enable owner authentication. That's the only authentication we need for a to-do app. Like, if I create a to-do item, somewhere shouldn't be able to edit it or delete it. So that's what this means. And also we need to remove this one that allows people with API keys to add to dos, because we don't want people with API keys to add to dos. Just want only people that created it to do to be able to edit them. So let's remove this one. So now let's pull the changes we made so far. And while this is pulling, we can go ahead and deploy the the authorization changes we made. Yeah, is there a free version of Amplify? That's the question that Meshach is asking. Yes, Amplify is free for a very, very long time, unless you like start having a lot of customers and you start using a lot of resources. That's when you start paying for it. But like even for when you have like just a few customers at the beginning, it's still free. It's like one of the cheapest services on AWS. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. This is done pulling. We don't have to answer all those questions that we answered the last time. So because it already knows the question, it already knows the answers. So it just pulled all of our authentication changes. Now we need to go to Visual Studio Code, and the only thing we need to do to ask people to sign in is just 2 steps. First of all, in the UI library, import the library called with authenticator, and then wrap the app function, the app component with it. So we can do something like export default with authenticator app. Okay. So once I do this and head back to the browser, you should see that I automatically get kicked out. Where is it? Let me refresh. Oh, I need to start the app. You can see I'm kicked out, like I can't access this app anymore. It's asking me to sign in, and it gives you all the sign-in like controls. Like we didn't build any component for signing or creating accounts or anything or forgetting password. Like it just gives you the UI, it just works. And you can customize this. Like if you go to the UI library, you can see that if we scroll up to the connected component, you can see the authenticator component, and you can see we have all of this configuration for the component. It can change literally everything. Okay. You can add social authentication as well, and so on and so forth. So that is authentication out of the box for you. We've not done any other thing, and our app is now secure. I can't sign, of course, because I haven't created an account. It's going to say user doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and create an account. We'll enter my email address. Just use a very simple password, and then create an account. Now, once I create an account, it's going to also verify. So you can see like all of these features have been done for you. It's going to send a code to my email address to verify my email address is correct. So none of this is going to be like be extra work for you. Like it's been handled for you. And that kind of like brings up Colin's comment, which is that it looks like a low-code approach. Yes, it's a low-code approach at the same time with complete control. And what I mean by this is I just showed you that everything here can be customized. One. Secondly, if we go back to Visual Studio Code, you can see that the components that were generated are not hidden from you. You can go back into the components and start like doing whatever you want to do with them. Okay. So if we head to my email account, I should be able to find the verification code. I just need to copy this now and paste it. Click confirm. And now I'll have access to my app again. All right. So that is authentication. Like nothing else we need to do to sign out. We just need to be able to click this button to sign out. And to do that, we need to use what we call overrides. If you open the navbar component, you would see that it has the button in it. You can come here and change. You can come here and add an on-click event. But the problem with this is that if we change this code here and pull again from Figma, what's going to happen is that Figma will, like the code will get overwritten and all our changes will be gone. So what we can do is use what Amplify calls override. We just need to get the name of the override key, just copy it. In this case, it's just called button. Now head back to app, and here we need to add an override object. And what we need to override is that prop I just copied, which is button, right? And what we need to add to it, it should be an object. And what we need to add to it is an on-click prop, okay? And that on-click prop is going to be a function. And the function is going to do something. So for now, let's just alert something. Let's say hi. If you head back and click, you will get hi. All right. So this is how if you want to customize your component without editing them directly, you can use the override props to do that. So what we want to do rather is to sign out, and to get the sign out function, we need to import the authenticator render props and just wrap our entire application using that. So let's call authenticator, and it's going to be a render prop. And in the render prop, we would render our app. So nothing is broken. If we refresh and check, nothing changes. But then the difference now is that we can receive sign out from here and then call the sign out function. If we save, refresh, click sign out, we'll get signed out. All right? You can click sign in one more time to sign in back into the app. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Then one last thing we need to do is that whenever you sign out, okay, before we solve the problem, let's understand the problem first by actually doing authorization. Let's see if this is the last step, and then I will let you all go. So authorization, the authorization is done, we're done deploying it, so we just need to pull by running amplify pull one more time. Yes, Samuel, you get right. Very little code, and like I don't want people to get very little code as like a bad thing. I need you to understand that it's not doing the work for you. It's saving you time on the most annoying, redundant tasks. So trust me, like if you I have a lot of experience writing React, and if I want to create components for all the create track components for all the components that my designer gives me, it takes me a whole lot of time to do that. So this kind of like saves me that time of generating those components for me. And all I just do is work on the logic and kind of like find a way to move to market very fast. Okay. So we are done pulling the auth stuff, but we also need to do one more thing, which is to make a change to the API. So if you go to open the Amplify folder in the back end, open the config.json, you can see that the default authentication here is API key. We don't want API key because remember, we just removed it when we configured this guy. So we're like, we don't want to use API key to authorize people anymore. We just want to use the user's profile to authorize them. And to do that, we need to run Amplify update API. And then it's going to ask you which API you want to update. We're only working GraphQL here, so click or hit enter for GraphQL. And then once you do that, it's going to ask you what do you want to update about this API. We want to update the authorization modes. And then lastly, we want to change the authorization mode from API key, which is what we have so far, to the user pool. So we want to be able to actually authorize people based on whether they signed in or not, and not based on whether they have API keys or not. I hope that makes sense. So if we hit this and hit enter, because we don't need to do any other thing, it will configure this for us. If you go back to the file, you can see this has changed from API key to user pools. So we just need to run amplify push now. We've been doing pull all this while. So we have to run amplify push to update AWS with all the changes we've made locally, which is just changing this from API key to user pool. Now this is going to take a few time, and while that's going on, let's answer a few more questions and see if anyone is lost, if anyone is confused, please let me know. Any questions? We should be done in the next 5 minutes. So if you have questions, instead of waiting to the end, you can ask them now while we're waiting for the deployments to complete. And also just to prove to you how flexible this is, like everything we've been doing in Amplify Studio is actually optional. And that what I mean is that we can actually like skip this entire website. Like if you're not working with a design, like a UI design, if you're doing your design from scratch, and that means you don't need Amplify to help you convert components to React components, then you can just like ignore this site and do everything with code. If you go to the documentation, you can see that there's a CLI section which shows you all the documentation you need to know about that. So you can see how to model your data locally, which is to use GraphQL and all of that stuff. So my point is that you have fine, detailed control over everything. It just meets you halfway as much as you want it to. At the same time, it's like lays back when you're like, hey, I got this. I don't need help with creating models. I want to do that from scratch. So my point is that whatever your jam is, you can find a way to fit it in with your workflow, or fit Amplify into your workflow and just make your life easier. And thank you, Margaret. I guess it's just going to be awkward silence while we wait for the push to finish. Remember, I told you at the beginning that most of the thing we're going to be doing is just watching Amplify do its magic, or while we just relax, which is cool. Like we programmers, we like being lazy, so anything that can get some part of the job done for us is very much appreciated. But just as a recap, we are pushing the changes I made to update the API so that we can access the API, not with API keys, but with the user's login details, okay? So once this is done, we also need to pull one more time, because if you remember before now, we went here and, okay, this is not showing anything now because it's being deployed. But we went there and changed the authorization rules by enabling that it's only on authentication will work. So we also need to pull that, just double check it. I don't think we need to, we'll just need to pull that just to make sure that there is nothing that is left out. So it's done. And I just need to run Amplify pull one more time. This one is very fast. And then we can go ahead and test if everything works. So you can see that at the end of the day, what you end up just doing is just running commands and configuring stuff and not writing much code. So which for me, I think is cool, because I like to spend my time building UI. Like I like API stuff, but I enjoy making things look nice. So if this can do the heavy lifting for me, then it's very well appreciated. So let's run npm start, and let's refresh this. Let's sign out. And before we sign out, I need to do something. I need that whenever we sign out, we need to clear the cache, because even if I'm offline, I'm still going to have data stored somewhere. Amplify does offline first strategy, which means that it stores all your data in your index DB. So even if you're offline, you can still access the data, and then when you come back online, things get synced up. So, but then this becomes a problem when you're dealing with authentication, because if two people are using the same browser and they sign out after using it, and all your private information is there, and someone else signs in, there's a chance that the data will clash, where they will start seeing what's in index DB. So I just need to clear the index DB when I'm done. And to do that, I just need to import data store. First of all, let's convert this function to async, and then we can call await data store, which will be imported from us from AWS Amplify, and then call .clear. And then this will remove everything in the cache before we sign out. So let's sign out now and sign in one more time. And you can see that we are not getting any data anymore. And the reason for this is because the text data we were working with was created by an anonymous person, technically by an anonymous person, because we weren't signed in at that time. So now the data I create now is going to be tied to only my account. So let's add hooked in one more time. Hang out with friends. Now, if I sign out, create a new account with my other email, use the same password, because who cares? And create an account. I need to enter a code, so I'll just find the code. From my phone, 749534, and confirm. Now, once I'm signed in, I won't be able to see what my other email address created. So this account can do its own thing. So let's do check my GitHub profile, meeting with manager. All right. So this is one account doing its own thing. If I sign out and log into the other account, this account has its own things. So you can see we have a full-fledged protected application that we can deploy to anywhere with like it just works. So, and then it still gives you that much control to go in and start editing whatever you want to edit. It doesn't, you're not being bound to just like the thing that was generated for you or the code that was generated for you. Like there's full flexibility at the same time, a lot of features that allows you to move very fast. So in 1 hour, 30 minutes with all the distractions, we're able to build a complete to-do app with authentication, authorization, API, all of that cool stuff in a good looking design without doing much. So yeah, that's pretty much everything about, that's pretty much how to get started with AWS Amplify. And you can go to the docs if you want to learn a lot more. I'm just going to share the link in the chat for everyone. Thank you for having me. Somewhere, that's all. I think I shared the image, the link to just somewhere. Let me share it to everyone. Yeah, cool.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. I can see there's no questions so far. Thank you so much all for joining us. Just to finish up, Adele will be giving us a closing remark. He's one of the AWS user groups. And also today we've got an apology from Tony. He's also one of the AWS user group leaders. He was not able to join us today. So thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, Adele.
Thank you so much, Tony. Hope you can hear me.
Yeah, sure. We can hear. Loud and clear.
Okay, the session was so insightful. Thank you, Christian, for your time and for everything and for the knowledge that you have impacted in us. And I think we can all switch on our video so that you can take the last screenshots.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, sure. Christine, kindly stop sharing your screen so that we can see everyone's face. Guys, let's enable our camera just for a second. We take a screenshot of this amazing event. I can see Richard there.
I see Tony as well.
Yeah. Great. I need some more ladies, please. Tony, I can see you. Mohammed, I can see you. Collins, some more people, please. We are very many here, and it would be nice if I can see all the faces. So kindly just enable your cameras for just a minute. I understand maybe some of you are maybe on the road or something, but if you're in the house, kindly try. Let's enable the cameras for minutes. I'm waiting for some 3 more people before I do the count. Winnie, nice to see you. I'm waiting for some more 3 people. Nice, Cosmos, Richard, Adele, nice. 2 more people. Two more people before I do the count. All right. Since it seems that's it, so let's do 1, 2, 3. Then we can. Which word can we say? Amplify. I guess we can go with Amplify today since it's been an Amplify event. So when I'll count 1, 2, 3, then I just do an Amplify. Then I'll capture that. So great. Let's give it a try. 1, 2, 3. Amplify. Great. I guess I captured that. Let's just do it one last time. 1, 2, 3. Amplify. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Adele, you can go.
Yes, and you'll be receiving your credit next week, early next week. And thank you guys for attending. Yes, we really appreciate as a user group, and we are looking forward to see you in the next meeting, which will be next month and the last Saturday of next month. Thank you and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, Adele. Bye, guys. Just everyone just to say a bye. Kindly wave bye before you go, or maybe just say bye. See you guys next week or next month. Sorry. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.